What is parenting and hierarchy in rigging? So parenting is the process of creating a hierarchical system for your rig that dictates how bones affect one another, specifically how bones on your character inherit movement. Bones can either be a parent or a child of one another. And this means when you rotate or move a bone that's higher in the hierarchy, it will move any and all other bones lower in the hierarchy. So let's take a look at this in action. So here we have a series of joints on this rig, okay? When I select BNSPA01, which stands for bind spine A, you'll notice that all the other bones in the rig appear green, and it appears as if they are all selected. That's because this is the root bone. This joint A is the root bone, and all other bones that are offshooting off of it are its children. If I were to select the spine B joint, it would only affect the joint lower down in the hierarchy from it, which is the brain, and it only affects the end joint. So spine B only affects the two joints lower down in the hierarchy from it. They are its children. Similarly, we can look at the hip joint over here on the left-hand side. It is affecting the knee, the ankle, the ball joint, and the end joint here, the toe joint. They are all the children of the hip joint. If I select the knee, you'll see that the hip joint is no longer selected. That's because the knee joint is a child of the hip joint. And so when I select the knee joint, the only other joints that appear green are the joints that are children of the knee. So the ankle, the ball, and the toe joint. All of these hierarchies and joint systems work in conjunction with one another. Now, I'm not going to select the joints and individually move them because they have constraints on them. They have, and the controls are manipulating the bones through those constraints, which we'll get into later. But if I select this body control here, you will see that it moves everything in the body. And it is attached through a constraint to the root joint. And of course, as we've seen before, the root joint affects all joints in the body. All other joints are children of the root. The same goes here for the upper body control. This upper body control, it manipulates all of the joints that are lower down in the hierarchy from that spine B joint. So the brain joint and the end joint here. If we select our foot control, it's driven by an IK system which runs from the hip down to the ankle, and of course the hip joint drives every other joint, and that is why the entire foot moves. And that right there is basics of parenting and hierarchy.